Hey guys, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of feeling out there that board gaming is a really expensive hobby. And there are some really big Kickstarters out there that cost you a pretty penny. But it doesn't have to be expensive. There are a lot of budget options out there that don't sacrifice the gameplay. That's what inspired this list. I want to come up with a list of 10 different games, really 20, because for each of these genres that we're going to be exploring, I've made 2 selections. So you can choose between the 2 for those of you playing at home. I'm going to be talking about these games in terms of Australian pricing, so Australian currency. But at the end of the video, I'm going to do an exchange rate for our collection that we've put together here, so you can see how much it would cost in your region as well, if you're living in the US or in Europe. All right, let's start with a genre that's near and dear to my heart, and that is deck building. So first of all, we've got Abandon All Artichokes and we've got Star Realms. When I say deck building, what do I actually mean by that? We're all starting off with the same deck of cards, but as the game goes on, we are building up our deck, choosing different cards to add into our deck, and trying to eliminate other players by destroying them or by gaining victory points. In this particular game, you're actually trying to do a little bit of the opposite. You're trying to get rid of and cull a lot of cards in your deck. Abandon all artichokes, you win the game if you draw 5 cards and there are no artichokes in your hand. How do you do that? A lot of the cards that you're going to be putting into your deck as your deck building will help you get rid of those cards. Or just build up your deck so that you've got so much in there so that you can avoid drawing those artichokes. A really fun filler style game. Over here, we've got Star Realms, which is more of a competitive deck building game where you're typically versing one other player. This edition of the game, Frontiers, comes with these scenario cards, which allow you to play solo or cooperative as well. If we're looking at Star Realms, this will cost you, for $25, you could get the base game, which is just the head-to-head style game, but Frontiers is going to set you back $35. On the other hand, Abandon All Artichokes is a $22 game, so a really nice budget option. For me, I think I'm leaning more towards Abandon All Artichokes. Let's set that one aside, and Star Realms, you're going over here. The next genre we're looking at is miniatures. I love having miniatures on the board. There's something to be said about the table presence they give and that tactile nature of moving them around on the board. So what are my choices when it comes to miniature games? First of all, I have Cave Troll and Vault. 2 very different games. In Vault, you are hiding dice behind these screens to program your robot. You're trying to eliminate all the other players in this arena robot battling style game. Really cool game, but over here we've got Cave Troll, which is an area majority, area control style game, where you'll be drawing a card and playing a card to place down your miniatures on the board. You're trying to control these rooms, and the miniatures that you place will have these added effects that help manipulate the board state in your favor. Your cards, as you play them, could have these hourglasses on them. And as 5 hourglasses get played, it triggers all players scoring. And there's a lot of push and pull trying to decide when to play these cards and putting yourself in a good situation to score. So I really like that aspect of the game. Both of these games cost $35. You could go with either one. And I should also note that both games come up with an additional way to play. Cave Troll has additional cards, so you can change up the abilities of all the miniatures in here. And then this one here comes up with like a more expert mode where you're using these weapon cards that can give your robots different attacks. So between these 2, my personal choice would be for Cave Troll. So I'm going to stick Cave Troll over here, and Vault, you're going over that way. What is the next genre that we're looking at? So the next genre I want to look at is engine building. What are my choices for this one? All right, I've got Splendor and Project L. When I'm talking about engine building, what do I mean by that? Your actions will get stronger throughout the course of the game. For instance, in Splendor, you're taking these poker chips and spending them to collect cards. As you accrue cards in front of you, they also contribute resources so you can get more difficult cards. It's a race to 15 points in this game. Over here, Project L, you start off with a modest 2 pieces and you're trying to complete these small puzzles in these double-layered player boards. And as you complete those, you're rewarded with more pieces that makes it easier to complete more difficult puzzles and getting even more rewards and more points. So, which of the two do I like? Let's talk about prices first. So, Project L is going to set you back $35, whereas over here, Splendor is a $45 game. I've played Splendor quite a bit, but I think Project L is going to get the win for me. I also like that this game has a solo edition, I should mention. So if you're a solo player, this is probably the way to go. So, Project L, you're going in my collection. Splendor, you're going to go over there. All right, what is the next genre we're looking at? And it is tile placement. So, I've got a few different choices here. We've got King Domino, we've got Blockus, and as a bit of an honorable mention, I also wanted to mention Patchwork. And the reason I want to do this is because Blockus I really feel is a 4-player game really. There are some variants where, you know, if you're playing 2-player, you take control of 2 different colors, or if you're playing 3-player, you take turns controlling the 4th player trying to cut off other players, but I didn't really like those modes as much. This really feels to me just a 4-player game. Whereas Patchwork is a 2-player only game. And you are placing these Tetris-style pieces on the board in a way that you're trying to cover it up as much as you can, but the way you draft these pieces depends on 2 different resources. Time and buttons. You have to spend buttons to get these different tiles, but also the time that it takes you to place the tile down, which is your resource, gives your opponent further opportunities to place more tiles down. So there's a bit of a push and pull with those 2 different mechanics there. King Domino is available at all player counts from 2 to 4. In this one, you are drafting pieces and placing them down in front of you to build up a kingdom. You're trying to create big territories of the same type of landscape, but you also want lots of crowns, which will add a multiplier. So say for instance, I'll have 3 crowns in a section that has 7 desert tiles. That's 3 times 7, 21 points there, right? As you're drafting these tiles, the better ones are further down in the drafting section. So placing your meeple there to claim those ones actually puts you last in picking order for subsequent rounds. So there's a bit of push and pull in that one as well, which is really interesting. Let's talk about prices. If we're talking about Blockus or if we're talking about Patchwork, you're looking at $30. But if you're looking at King Domino, you can pick this one up for $22. I really like King Domino, and I like the flexibility of playing at all player counts, so this one's going to be the pick for me. So King Domino, over there you go. Blockus, you're going over here. All right. What is the next genre? Bluff and Negotiation. A lot of table talk, a lot of deception, a lot of trying to keep information hidden from the other players of the table. So what are the games that I chose for this one? I went with Citadels and Sheriff of Nottingham. Okay, so what's the difference between these 2 games? Citadels will have you picking a secret role every single round, and these roles come with these powers that will help you gain resources to build up your own city. You want to be building up 7 cards in your city to trigger the endgame scoring. Now, the secret is you do not want people to know what roles you are claiming, because there are some roles that can sabotage other ones, like the thief can steal money from a selected role, or the assassin could knock out a selected role so they don't even have a turn that round, right? So that's Citadels. And then over here you've got Sheriff of Nottingham, where you'll be taking turns taking on the role of the sheriff. As the sheriff, you're trying to catch out those people who are trying to bring in those contraband goods into the city. If you catch them out, you get some of their money. But if they trick you into looking into their bag and they didn't have it, then you get a penalty. So a lot of bluff, a lot of deception. You might want people to check your bag, you might not want them to. So there's really interesting gameplay here. The cost of citadels, this edition of the game comes with extra rolls that you can swap in and out. So you've got a little bit more replay value in this one. This one's $40, but if you want the base game that just comes with the one set of rolls, which, to be honest with you, I haven't even played with the other rolls in this game. I've only played with the one set of rolls because we all know what they do, and it's much easier to just sit down and get it played. So $25 will get you that basic edition of the game, which I would recommend since I've only played the basic ones in this one anyway. Whereas over here, Sheriff of Nottingham is going to set you back $50. Personally, I like Citadels, so I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to pop that over here. And Sheriff is going over there. All right, what is the next genre that we're going to be looking at? We are looking at dice chuckers. So my dice chucking picks are King of New York and Bang the Dice Game. In Bang the Dice Game, you are playing as a hidden role. There are sheriffs and their deputies, there are outlaws and there are renegades. The sheriff and the deputies want to wipe out all the outlaws and the renegades to win the game, whereas the outlaws are just trying to gun for that sheriff and get him down as quickly as possible. The renegade is secretly playing both sides and trying to be the last man standing by wiping out the sheriff last. So this game is really fun. Both of them utilize the Yahtzee style dice mechanic where you're rolling dice, picking up the ones you don't like and re-rolling them again up to 2 times. Over here, the King style games, there's actually a line of 3 different games. King of Tokyo is the simpler version of this game. King of New York, which is the one I prefer, there's a few more things going on this one that I enjoy. And then King of Monster Island came out just recently, which is the cooperative edition of the game. In this game, again, you are rolling and re-rolling like you do in Yahtzee, and you're trying to either wipe out all the other monsters at the table or accrue 20 different victory points. So you can do that by destroying buildings, you can do that by trying to roll stars, which will give you points, or by using energy to purchase upgrade cards, which give you extra effects or additional victory points. Between the two of them, which one do I like? Let's talk about price first. So over here, Bang the Dice Game is only $25, whereas over here, King of New York, $50, okay? Which one do I want? Oh, I think I'm going to go with King of New York. I really do enjoy this game. And there's a lot to be said about the variability that comes with all the expansions if you're willing to go there and get a few extra expansions into the game. All right, so I'll pop you over here. And bang, you're going over there. What is the next one that we're looking at? We're looking at drafting next. So, what are my choices for drafting? I have Coloretto and I have, Sushi Go. When you're drafting, you are taking cards from a shared pool and you're trying to get the most optimal selection of cards. Both of them play in very different ways. Sushi Go will have you pick from a hand of cards and pass the rest on. And you're trying to create sets that will score you lots of points. For example, some sets of cards will ask that you have 3 of a kind and you'll earn a lot of points for that. But if you fall short of that, then you score no points. The trick is that other people can see what you're drafting, so they might try and hate pick your cards and stop you from getting those really good points. Over here, Coloretto has you either drawing a card and placing it into a pile or taking a pile from in front of you. The piles can only have 3 cards in them, but the trick is not all cards are good. Some cards are very bad for you. You are trying to collect only 3 different colors of card. If you have additional colors of card, those are going to be negative points to your score. The trick of this game is trying to place cards in a pile to make them really not wanted by everyone else at the table, but nice for you to pick up. It's very difficult. If you make the piles too good, other people are just going to snatch them up before you get a chance to. What are the prices for these games? Coloretto is a $22 game, whereas Sushi Go you can pick up for as little as $20. I like both games, but Coloretto is the one for me. I'm going to be picking that one. So Coloretto is over there, Sushi Go, and you're heading over there. All right, what is the next genre we're looking at? It's strategy games. Strategy games, you're looking at trying to outwit your opponent, and you're making a lot of moves to try and further your plans. 2 different style games here. I've got Trick Draw and I've got Tiny Epic Galaxies. Tiny Epic Galaxies will have you rolling dice and using the resources provided to either colonize different planets or build up your colony, so you've got more dice at your disposal, or you can use culture to follow the actions of other players. As they're rolling their dice, you can spend culture to copy their actions. So really interesting mechanics in this one. I should also mention that this is the pocket style edition of the game. It's called Ultra Tiny Epic Galaxies. This line of games is very, very small. They're known for a lot of gameplay in a very small package. This edition of the game I was able to get for $15, but it's very hard to find this travel size edition of the game. Typically, you're looking for, how much is it? Give me a second. $27 for the more, I struggle to say deluxeified edition of the game, although the components in that $27 edition of the game are much nicer. So there is that. Over here you have Trick Draw. This one I was able to pick up for $15. However, that was on sale. I haven't been able to find it lower than $24, unfortunately. So in Trick Draw, very simple game, but a lot of strategy goes into your plays. You have a hand of cards and you are playing them either face down or face up in front of you. Face down means they're hidden and people don't know what you're going for. In addition to that, they're also worth points while they're face up. So your opponent might want to try and flip them up with their own card effects, but they don't know what's under there. Your cards might be better face up. There are also a lot of card combinations in this game. Cards work really well with each other that you can use to combo off and get lots of points in a very fast manner. And the trick of this game is trying to catch people out before they get those combos going. Now, which one of these games do I want to pick? It's very hard. I like both of these games, but this one is newer to my collection. I think I'm going to be playing that one a bit more. So, Trick Draw, you're going in, and Tiny Epic Galaxies, you're going over there. So the next genre I want to look at is cooperative style games. And the first one I want to talk about is The Mind. The Mind will have you all silently working together to play cards in a sequence. You can't talk to each other, so you have to sort of mind read and look at the tells of players to be able to play these in the correct fashion. If you get it wrong, you lose lives, and there's several levels that you have to get through to be successful in this game. It's a really interesting one. The other one that I had in mind was Forbidden Island. In this one, you are traveling an island trying to collect artifacts and get off the island before it all sinks to the bottom of the ocean. The Mind is going to cost you $15, whereas Forbidden Island is going to set you back $30. Which of the two do I prefer? I have a soft spot for The Mind. I have some really funny stories with this one, so The Mind it is, it's sticking around. What is my final genre? It's my head-to-head competitive 2-player style games. So for this one I have Hive and I have Seven Wonders Duel. Two of these games play very differently. Hive is a asymmetric style game. I often, when people ask about it, I tell them it's a lot like chess. The pieces move in very different ways and you're trying to surround your opponent's queen to win the game. Very quick, it's good for traveling. All the pieces are waterproof, so you can play it anywhere. So good for that. And then over here, this one has a little bit more crunch to it if you're interested in that. Seven Wonders Duel has you drafting cards in a way that they're placed out in front of you, and taking cards could give your opponent opportunities to grab cards that they really want. So you have to be very selective with which cards you're grabbing and when. You want to try and give your opponent either really bad options to pick, or perhaps make them choose between two really good ones at the same time. So there's a lot of thinking behind that one. And I also like that there's multiple paths to victory. You can win through points, you can win through achieving a science victory, or by destroying your opponent with a military victory. So a really fun game. Let's talk about price. Hive, this edition of the game is going to cost you $33. However, you can get a smaller pocket edition of the game for only $23. Whereas Seven Wonders Duel is a $25 game. Personally, it's a really tough one, but I like the crunchier games. I'm going to go with Seven Wonders Duel. So I'm going to pop that over here. And Hive, you're going to go over to this pile. So I'm going to be calculating the cost in Australian dollars, and you'll see it up screen right now. And at the time of this recording, I'm also converting that cost into euro and US dollar, so you can follow along at home. All right, well, thank you so much for watching, guys. This was a blast to make this list, and I hope you found it helpful. If you did, subscribe. I've got lots more videos coming. Until next time, see you later.